My brother was considering purchasing a tractor just to do odd jobs around his house, and he came across this one on Marketplace, and he wanted to take a look at it. So we were both headed down to the Half Century of Progress show in Rantoul, Illinois, and this was on the way, so we decided to take a look at it. We drove it around a little bit, tested it, and I thought it was pretty good. So he decided to purchase it, and he put some money down. We went to the show, came back, and he was going to pick it up, and which he did. Him and his son came with their truck and picked it up. And then the next day, he had decided, after playing around with it a little bit, it was just too large for what he needed it for, and asked if I wanted to purchase it. And being that it seemed like a pretty solid tractor to me, I decided to go ahead and purchase that. So he dropped it off at my house, and that's where we're at right now. This tractor is a Model 2-65 white farm equipment branded tractor that was made by the Ezaki Company of Japan. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the Ezaki name correctly though. Most of the U.S. tractor companies at this time were having their under 100 horsepower tractors made by various companies overseas. White was a large truck manufacturer that purchased 3 tractor companies in the 1960s. The tractor companies they purchased were the Oliver Corporation, Minneapolis Moline, and the Cockshut Company in Canada. The companies they purchased kept their identities until their separate names were all folded in the White name by 1975. White had most of their lower horsepower tractors manufactured by Fiat in Italy up until about 1980. Then they switched to the Ezaki Company from Japan. The 2-65 model were made from 1982 to 1987. It appears that Ezaki still makes tractors for other markets outside the USA, and I believe they make some Massey Ferguson branded tractors for the US market currently. The white 2-65 was also marketed as an Ezaki T7000 in other markets. This particular tractor was manufactured in 1986, probably late in the year 1986. From serial number documentation I've read, it appears only about 940 of these tractors were made, but I can't really verify the accuracy of those numbers. The engine in this tractor is a 3.9-liter 4-cylinder Isuzu diesel engine that has 62.5 horsepower, PTO horsepower, and 55.7 drawbar horsepower. They were made in a 2-wheel drive version or a 4-wheel drive version, as is this one. According to the operator's manual, the 4-wheel drive version weighs about 5,800 pounds without any ballast added or without the weight of the loader. The front tire size on the 4-wheel drive model is 9.5 by 24, and the rear tire size is 16.9 by 30 inch. The Ezaki built white tractors never seem to hold their paint very well, and this one certainly is no exception. The silver just did not seem to adhere. Also, this would have been a red stripe, and while you can see some evidence of red around here, clearly the rest of the decal has lost it. So I put a bag over the seat last night to keep it from the rain. I'm going to pull that off a minute. So I got a little bit of a chance last night to look through some of the service manuals, or the owner's manual, operator's manual, to just understand it a little bit better. Of course, you can see the obvious here. It's got a Kelly loader on it. It's not a quick attach. Right now it only has forks. It does not have a bucket with it. Has pretty good Firestone tires all the way around it. Okay, let's start out at the back end here. Now you can see it's missing a PTO housing. Actually, it looks like I think it was a 2-piece. You can see remnants of the original piece, and I'm guessing the actual shroud that went around there was spot welded on, and I'm not sure if the shaft came off and it got hooked and ripped off, but we're gonna have to try and find a new one of those. So the loader, it actually has 3 remotes coming out the back here. The loader is tying up 2 of them. Here are the valves for the loader. And looking through the manuals, I think that was actually intended to be for that, because one of these valves does have a detent position in them. First I thought that was just an afterthought and that was added, but I believe that was intended for the loader. Maybe not ideal. I'd like to have a joystick type of control, but it is what it is for now. So looking at the back here again, the arms are retractable. You can lift this up, or no, excuse me, push this down. Those arms will pull out for making it easier to attach. The drawbar is missing. The owner thought he had it, but when we went to pick it up, he could not find it. The shift lever here, there's 4 speeds plus reverse from the main shift lever here. Okay, this side console here, there are 4 levers here. It's a little bit of an unusual shifting arrangement here. These 2 levers are for ranges. There's a high and a low range, and there's a high and low range creeper. And you can configure these. You can have this one down, this one up, and vice versa. Both down, both up. So you can get to 16 different speeds from what the manual says. Batteries under here sound like the battery's kind of weak. It does charge, but there should be a cover over here. Cover is missing. Probably going to be hard to find, but I don't think it's overly difficult to make something similar to it. And coming up into the dash area here, it has 4,800 and almost 2 hours on it. There's a throttle lever here. There's also a foot throttle lever down there. The PTO is kind of unique. There's a place to disengage the actual gear driving the PTO. Then there's a lever up here. Now, I first thought there's something wrong with this because it moves so easy. But my brother tried it and he said it did seem to work, so I have not hooked it up to an implement yet, but I believe why it goes so easy because it's actually a hydraulically controlled clutch from what I understand. So we're gonna hook it onto the brush hog a little later and see how well that does work, and hopefully it does work. So currently the gauges do work. The fuel gauge works. The temperature gauge, I hadn't run it long, but it did start to rise. The hour meter and tach are both working. There's a charge light, an oil light, and a differential lock light. And the oil light and the charge light I know do work when you turn the key on. There is also a horn button. That did not seem to work. Well, actually I can hear it just a little bit, so the power is going to the horn. We gotta check into that. There are turn signals. And there are turn signal indicators. Those do not seem to be turning on. And from what I understand, you pull this out. Okay, I did just see one of the indicator lights light up. So I may have to replace the flashing relay or look into the wiring. Okay, and down here is a I believe you turn it backwards and acts as a glow plug. I'm just turning it now to see if it glows. I don't see it glowing, so I don't know if that works, but here's the fuel shut off. Okay, it's actually pull out to stop. Push in to start, and then as far as the lights go, you turn the key further for different light positions, and the lights are working, or most of them. One of the headlights is dim, so I suspect maybe a bad ground. But okay, so yeah, here are your loader controls. Here's your draft control and 3-point lift. The knobs are missing. Here's a hydraulic remote for the third one. Here's a parking brake lever. That does work. Both brakes do work really well. The left side seems like it tends to hang up, so I have to look into that.
there is a tilt wheel. You loosen this up and you can position this steering wheel further back or forward. So while we're sitting here, let's just start this up. It's probably 65 degrees out this morning. We'll see how it pops off. Wow, she starts right up. That's a good sign. I think these Isuzu diesels were pretty good engines. Not quite sure what this knob does. From what I understand, it's like a fine control, a feather control they call it, for the PTO. So I don't quite understand that yet. Oh, speaking of PTO, back to the PTO. There is yet another lever here for what they call live PTO or ground speed PTO. I've seen that on some older Ferguson or Massey tractors. I thought that was a thing of the past, but they haven't here yet. This other lever is to engage the front wheel assist. Right now it is off. Decals here are bad shape, can't hardly read them. Same as on the hydraulic lever side. Would love to be able to find some new decals. I don't know if that's possible. If anyone knows of any parts for these tractors, new or used, please let me know in the comments. Let's kind of walk around to the front here. Over here is a hydraulic filter. That's a washable one from what I understand. It's the front view. Another side view. It did have the rollover protection system. It was an option that you could get a canopy for it as well. Here's a dipstick for the engine oil. And you can see underneath, I believe these are canisters for the fuel filters. Before we do any work with this, I'm going to pull it into the workshop. We're going to just check fluid levels. At some point, I'm going to do a complete fluid change on every fluid in it. For now, I'd like to run it an hour or two if I could on the brush hog just to see what it does. It's possible I may change the oil before I do that, but we'll determine that in a little bit. Before I pull it into the workshop, we're going to take it to the steam cleaner and just wash it down a little further. My brother did some power washing, got a lot of it, but I'm going to just get some of the little more of the grime off. So I got the front end of the tractor off the ground a little bit. I'm just going to check for slop here. Well, I don't feel any at all going this direction. Okay, trying to move it back and forth that way. I don't feel any slop in the center hinge pin either, so that's a very good sign. Let's check the other side. Feel nothing at all this way. The joints on the tie rods are very tight yet. Yeah, I don't feel any slop there, so that's encouraging. We've got the tractor back in the workshop. We're going to pull off these side panels. I believe they're hinged on the bottom and they're made to disconnect and fold down. But obviously we can't do that with the loader arms in the way, so we're going to pull them back and then slide them out of the hinges. I may pull this battery out, see if it's even the right size. The battery's probably not so good anymore, but it is still starting it. We've got to check the fluid level in the final drives. There are check plugs here, one on either side, and
There's a fill plug in the top, there's a drain plug in the bottom, but for now we're just going to check the level. And then we're going to take this side panel off. We're going to check the antifreeze and probably take this, I guess you'd call this a grill guard, and then we can pull the grill off, and there's power steering. There's a power steering reservoir in there, and I don't know if we need to check it from the front or if we can access that through the side panel. So we're going to do that. And okay, the front axle, it appears there's only one checkpoint, and there's a plug in the top, and it's supposed to be, the fluid level should be down about an inch from there. So we're going to look into that. And I'm not sure if there's a, it looks like there's a small gearbox under here where the drive shaft comes in and then connects into the front differential. I don't recall seeing anything in the manual for an oil check on that, but so I don't know if it's getting its oil through the front axle, but if it is, that is sitting lower than the front axle, and there should be a drain plug in there, but I did not see that more closely. We're going to check the bent over dipstick on the transmission, and that carries the fluid for the transmission, rear end, and hydraulics. And move up these hinge pins here. I'm just going to spray a little lube on these turnbuckles. They don't seem to be free at the moment. This one does turn. I'm going to pull this battery out in a minute too, and maybe just put that on the trickle charger and see if that's even the correct size. Well, that was barely on there. Looks like a Group 24. I looked around a little bit. I didn't see a date on it, but I'll look at it closer. We're going to clean that out, put the battery on the trickle charger. So I'm going to check the voltage on this battery. I know the tractor does charge, and it has been started a few times and hasn't run very long, so it didn't get a lot of chance to charge it up. We'll just see where we're at now. About 12.3 volts, and a good battery charged up should be about 12.7, so it's really low. We're going to put it on the trickle charger for a while and see what it does.
Looks like there's a dipstick on this power steering. No, not a dipstick, I guess, just a cap. Oh. So there's a check plug on the power steering reservoir here. Oil coming out, so it's plenty full. Should be changed. We're going to drop this air cleaner down. It's got some debris in it for sure. I want to see if I can find a part number on it, and I did find one on the AGCO website. It was on back order. I have found another source that do have these things, but I want to find a part number just to make sure I'm getting the right one. I'm not seeing a part number on it. It does look like the one I seen in the picture, so the owner's manual says you can blow this thing out and rinse it in a solvent to clean it. They say you can clean it several times before you should replace it, so that's what we're going to do for now. We're going to go up now and check the antifreeze level. That is one thing we did not do before it was purchased. The guy was using it, so I shouldn't have assumed, but he didn't say there was any issues, so probably should have checked that ahead of time. So here's the fill plug on the front axle. It appears that this front axle, everything runs down into these dropped areas with gears and the final drives there. It's all controlled by just one opening here, one check, which is kind of nice. So it's supposed to be about 1 inch down. Well, the oil is in there. It's more than 1 inch, and hard to tell. It's probably 1.5 inches or so. So we are going to top this one off. We're still going to come back and change this fluid, but for our testing, we're just going to top it off. So on the final drives, I removed the check plug there, and on this side, oil actually came running out a little bit, so you can see it drip down on the floor there, run down the casing. The other check plug, it was pretty much right up to the level, so that's a good sign. Don't have to do anything there. The radiator was down. It was below the tops of the cores. I did put some antifreeze in to see how low it was. And it took about maybe 3 quarts or a little more to get it up to where it should be. So not too alarming, considering it holds close to 4 gallons, but we'll keep an eye on it. And yeah, I'm going to drain this all out eventually too, and change that as well. Here's what the bottom can of the air filter housing looks like. Looks like mice decided to build a home in there. Here's the air filter element itself. It doesn't look terrible. I am going to replace it, but for what we're doing today, I'm just going to blow it out and use it for a little while. Now the book shows that it should have a plastic, like an air diverter fin on it. This did not have that, so I don't know if it did at one time. It did say it's removable, but ours does not have that. So we're going to go clean this up and reinstall. Up inside here, there's actually another, like a pre-cleaner or I think they call it a safety cleaner in some other references I've seen, but it does not mention this in the service manual. So that looks clean from here. We're going to leave that alone for now. So we got the air filter cleaned out, and I cleaned out this cup area here and installed that back on. And I decided to change the oil. I don't have an oil filter for it yet, so I did drain the oil. I ran the engine a little bit, warmed it up, strained it out, and
there's actually a cartridge type filter in here. So I am gonna pull that cartridge off and just see if I can find a number on that filter to verify I'm getting the right one when I do order it. I took the side shields off, and there was a plate over here too, so either side I took off just because I wanted to see what I could see under there. Here's one of the shields. Here's the other shield, and okay, and here's the centerpiece I removed. So I'm going to leave these off, and when we try it out, we're going to put it on the brush hog a little later. I just wanted to see what was underneath here. Here's the view from this side. There's some evidence of a bit of a mouse nest in there. I hope they didn't hack up the wiring too much. There's the fuse panel. And underneath here, there's a little covering. But for this PTO lever here, this is an on and off, and that actually goes to a hydraulic valve. And from what I understand, there's a clutch pack in there, so you can feather this throttle. And then I wondered what this knob was. The manual, I think, said a feathering control. I also found some reference that if the clutch isn't completely stopping, you can adjust it with this. It just limits the travel of your hand lever. And there's also some linkage on the pump, or some adjustment on the pump linkage as well. One other thing we need to do before hooking the brush hog on is this third link. This is an original third link, I believe, to the tractor. It, at least the top part here is froze up at the moment, so and it looks like someone's had a pipe wrench on here before, so it's possible I may have to heat that up to free it up, but we'll try first without heat. Another thing I came across, I pulled the battery out of here, cleaned that up. That battery does not seem to be very good. It's not taking a trickle charge very well, although, and what I did discover, there is actually another battery on this side, which I wasn't even aware is in there. And that battery actually seems to be okay. So it did have twin batteries originally. I'll probably just run one battery for now. If I buy another one, that's really not good to put two different batteries together and tie them together. They really should be the same brand, same kind, same age, in order for them to work well together. I'm going to take off this oil filter canister now. There are O-rings in there, and I hope I can get it to seal back up again. Wow, that's tight. So we got the components cleaned out for the canister filter, and there is an O-ring in there, and then there's an O-ring on this bolt as well, and we're going to reuse those for now. I think when you get a new filter, it comes with the new O-rings. So there's where our canister bolts to. It was kind of messy. If you've seen when I pulled off the metal cover, oil spilled around a bunch. Had I known, there is from the bottom of this filter housing, there is a bolt you can take out that will allow it to drain. So I could have saved myself that mess, but I know for next time now. Now on the filter itself, I did not find any number other than this number here. This looks like an 03B03, which I don't think is a good part number. I couldn't find a brand or anything, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take measurements of this, the length and diameter, and see if the new one that I'm going to purchase gives those dimensions. I can verify it's the right one. Well, it's a new day today. It's in the morning. There's a heavy dew on the ground. I'm walking out to the white tractor out in the field, and you may be wondering why it's sitting in the field. After I changed the oil last night, I hooked up the brush hog. It was still light enough to get started, so it was working well. I do want to talk about a few things later, but then things took a turn for the worse. As I turned around, was heading back up, I seen some oil spraying from my right side, and I first thought it was a hydraulic line that blew on the loader. It did not appear to be after quick look, and so it was coming out of the right side of the engine because I had the panels off, luckily. I thought it was fuel then because the injection pump's on that side, and that did not appear to be the case. It was too thick, so just quickly looked around in there, and it appears it's probably coming from the canister on the oil filter. So I shut it down quickly, and by then it was close to dark, and I'm just going to deal with it in the morning here. So yesterday when I changed the oil, I took the filter out of the canister. I wanted to take a look at it to see if I could find a part number, which I did not, but I put the old filter back on. I thought I had the O-ring in good. There's an O-ring on the bottom of this canister. It does fit in a groove. Now, quite often what happens when you're trying to put a used O-ring back in, it expands after you pull it out of the groove, and that was the case here. Thought I had it in good, and when I started up and tested it, let it run for a little bit, it was not leaking. When I first started brush hogging, it wasn't fully up to operating temperature, so I was running the RPM a little slower. It was when I turned around, I cranked it up to a full PTO RPM, and that's really when I noticed it. So I don't know if a little increase in oil pressure popped the O-ring out, so we're gonna have to crawl underneath here. Like I said, there's a dew on the ground. I'm gonna get a piece of cardboard, lay it down. I'm gonna drain out the filter housing, and we're gonna pull that off. Okay, with that canister pulled off, here's what it looked like. If I can get the camera down in here, it looks good on the front. On the back side, you can see how that O-ring is out of the groove. So, and that does appear to be where it was leaking. I had not touched anything yet. Now, whether it had just popped off or come out of the groove when I pulled the canister off, that I don't know for sure. But we're gonna possibly see if I can find another O-ring, or we're gonna try and fit this one back in here again. I went into my O-ring selection. Okay, here's the one that came out of it. Now, it does not look like it was crushed when it was put in, but I looked in the Echo parts book. They are calling out a 1/8 inch diameter by 4 1/8 inch inside diameter. Now this one measures a little under 4 1/8, and typically they come just slightly over, so I'm not sure if this is the right one. It appears to be pretty close. Excuse me, I said 1/8 inch O-ring thickness, I should say. And this one's a little under 1/8 inch thickness, and typically they come a little oversized. So the diameter does appear to be correct, but I think this one's stretched out a little bit. I have a couple other ones here. These are 1/8 inch, and you can even see how much thicker they are. So it is noticeable. But these, I believe, are 4 3/16 inside diameter. And I brought one out to the filter housing, and it's just not going to work. If I order the filter, that should come with a new gasket or O-ring. That's going to take at least a few days, probably 4 or 5 days to get here, and I really like to get the thing going now yet. So I did a little more digging in an area where I had some hydraulic cylinder seals, and I happened to find this one lone O-ring. It is a little bigger than the last one I tried because that was not going to work. I believe this one is going to work. It's pretty close to the right size from what I can tell. So the filter housing has a flat flange around here, and this one is, if anything, is just maybe slightly on the small side, and looks like the wall of the O-ring groove is slightly tapered. So if it is a little small, I believe it's just going to push it into place. That's my hope. So we're going to get the housing installed, and we're going to try and inspect it close. I have a little camera. I think I can maybe peek around the back of that housing to make sure it is sealing. So I have the canister sitting on the filter housing. I just barely have it snugged, and from what I can see on my end here, it looks okay. I do have this camera with a probe. I'm going to try and look around behind this filter to see what we can see. Well, I'm looking at it from the side view here, which I can see with my eyes anyhow. It looks like there's a gap there yet. Of course, I don't have it snugged down, but getting behind this yet is just a challenge. Okay, there's a little bit. Okay, well, I'm going to tighten that down some more. We'll have another look. Keep an eye on it from the front side here and see if we can see any progress while I'm tightening it. Okay, you can see where the two halves join together well. Just visually from the side, I can see in the front looks okay. Let's try and get this camera back around the opposite side and see if we can get a good view of it. Okay, that's where I think it was leaking last time. From what I can see, I don't see the O-ring protruding out. It almost looks like a slight gap there. I don't know, it does look like a really small gap on the back side, or one of the back part of the side, so we're going to try it. So I already did pull the dipstick. It's definitely low. It is still on the dipstick. Now the tractor is sitting on an angle, which is not going in our favor. We're about 2.5 quarts left of oil for this machine. We're going to pour that in, and I'm going to just drive it ahead up to the barn, and we're gonna let it sit there on some flat ground, and I'm gonna power wash the engine and stuff back off, and we'll check the oil later, and it's possible I may have to make an oil run. I have about 3 quarts of oil left. I'm gonna pour in 2 quarts. Maybe I'll pour all 3, I don't know. It holds about 10 quarts. So I put in what oil I had. It's still low. We're gonna start it up, just try and drive it over to the barn slowly. It's not real far away, and then let it sit. And I may have to run and get some more oil. It does have an oil light on it, and it does work. And it was not flickering at all last night when it was spewing out oil. But I'm just going to stand here a minute. We're going to start it just to verify it's not blowing oil out. If it is, it's probably coming from somewhere else, and that's really bad news. But yeah, we're going to do a cold start. It was about 45 degrees when I came out here this morning, but now I think it's probably close to 60, 65, which is like an hour and a half later, so maybe not a good cold test. And I see I don't have the keys, so I gotta try and find them back. I think they're in the barn. Okay, it's in neutral. Both range selectors are in neutral. Oil light is on, so let's hope it goes out after I start it. Okay, it took a couple seconds, but it did go out. So I think it's safe to drive over to the barn. But boy, this thing starts incredibly well. Very happy with that. Okay, we're back at the barn. What I forgot to mention is I did look at it while I was running for a little bit. I did not see any oil spraying out, which is a very good sign. If it wasn't this canister, that would have been a sign of something much more serious, so that's kind of relieving. We did just burn through some oil, though I'm probably going to have to go to the store and get some more. But in the big picture, wasn't a big deal. While we're looking at the engine again, I did just want to say, this engine, before the oil leak on the other side, now we're to the left side here, it had literally no oil leaks, no valve cover leaks, nothing. The only thing I see is it's a little grimy around the hydraulic pump, but yeah, it was very clean over here. So I guess since I have to have the pressure washer out anyhow, this will give us another opportunity to clean some of those other areas that I did not do when the shields were on. This side as well is extremely clean. Obviously it's not now, we have oil all over, but prior to that it looked really good. Getting ready to power wash, I decided to lift the loader up to get the arms out of the way just a little bit, and just wanted to point out just to see how high this loader frame goes up. It almost goes just a little bit over center backwards, so I don't know if that's normal or unique just to this loader. We're getting close to starting the tractor back up again and continue with our brush hogging. I just have the funnel draining into the oil fill, letting that drip out. But I wanted to make show you a couple observations I made yesterday when I was hooking up this brush hog. First is this crank here. So that allows you to shorten or lengthen this arm, holding up the 3-point, which is nice. There should be a little handle, pivot handle here that is missing, knob. But as you can see, as you're trying to move it, it hits this bracket for these hydraulic hoses. So that must have been that way either since the tractor was new or when someone installed the loader. So I don't know how that slipped by someone, but you can, by disconnecting this, pulling the arm further out of the way and moving it up to a certain position, you can get it to move, but that's not very handy. Another issue with these hoses where they're mounted is, so the other issue on this third link, now right now I have it froze up here. I put a little heat to it yesterday and was not able to get this end to turn, but this end here is free. So this handle here, if it's in this position, it's locked and you can't turn it. So you move it this way, it unlocks it. Now that'll allow you to turn it. But as you can see, it's going to turn around and connect hooked into these hoses. So that's not a good thing. And I thought, well, you could just turn it around. But what is on here is a category 1 end. And
I see that that's orange. I don't know if that's orange all the way around. Well, it's got some blue on it too, so I think that's primer. So, and here is a category 2, so I can't swap it around. If I had a category 2 end here, I could swap it around and this would be out of the way. So at some point I want to try and remount these hoses to a somewhat different location. Another thing I wanted to show you is this PTO. There is a lever here which engages or disengages the gear, but then you have another lever up here which turns it on and off. So down is off, and from the little bit of testing I did do, you turn it up and that you can see the lever moving. That activates a hydraulic valve and it creates like a soft start. So there's a clutch pack in there, and it's hydraulically controlled, which is kind of a nice feature. The problem I had noticed last night, when it's up running, after a while this handle wants to work its way back down and then it'll shut off. Now I don't really see what the issue is. There's springs in here. They appear to be in the correct place per the part manual. There is some adjustment on this linkage. There's also this knob here, and I think the owner's manual said there was like a feathering control, and it didn't really go into an explanation on that. But what that does, when you have this all the way up, it limits the forward up movement of the lever. So I did turn this out a ways, so it allows this lever to go further. So maybe that's enough to keep it in position, but we'll keep an eye on that. I gotta figure that out. Everything seems to work fine. It's just this lever wants to creep down. And it doesn't appear it was intended for any kind of a friction in here that I can tighten up. The throttle lever does have a special friction bushing in there. This one does not. So I'm gonna go re-look at the manual before I get started here again to see if there's something I missed when reading that. And one positive observation I made yesterday was when hooking this brush hog up, these have retractable ends for hooking up to your implement. What you do is, I guess, yeah. Well, I can't do it right now, but you'd push that down, that's spring loaded, and then that allows you to pull these out. So if you're getting close, you can't quite reach, you just extend that out. And it also has some up and down movement as well. So that's real handy when hooking this bigger equipment up. So I got it topped back off with oil again. It was down about 5 quarts, so that's about half the capacity. It holds around 10. And okay, I'm just gonna let it run here at a high idle for a while, maybe even until it gets close to operating temperature. I just want to keep a close eye on it, and then keep a close eye on that filter housing again when we get out to the field. I don't suspect any problems this time, but you never know.
it a little over an hour now. The temperature gauge is on the low side of the green. And I just wanted to check with this infrared thermometer just to verify what temperature it's running. This grill guard thing here is kind of rattly, so we're going to try and fix that. But okay, shooting at the thermostat housing. Around 130. Lower radiator hose. Engine block. I'm moving over to the other side of the engine. I'm just pointing it at the exhaust manifold now. That's around 205. The block here, 150-ish, 60. The temperature gauge is reading on the low side of the green zone, so it appears this engine's not getting up to temperature. The thermostat should start opening at 180, and I think fully open at 195. So I may need to look into changing the thermostat. Crawling underneath here, I'm just trying to check where the blow-by tube would come out, and I can see where it is, and there's no blow-by coming out here whatsoever. So that's a good sign. So before this lever, of course, down is off, and all this does is turn on and off a hydraulic pump. So before it would go up to here, and I could feel a little bit of tension on it, but I couldn't get it to move any further. So I was just holding it there for a while, then finally I stopped, and it's like, I got to figure this out. So I went down to the linkage, studied that for a bit, and determined that it was probably just gummed up or from not being used for a while. So I sprayed some lube in there and moved it around, and now when you start to feel tension on, you just push a little further, and it kind of does like an over center, and it locks into place there. So haven't had any issues since. It stays there, and I believe that's what it is supposed to do. So that is a really nice feature. It's like I showed you earlier, there's a gear lever down here where you turn it on and off the main gear. And if you do that, then of course, obviously this isn't going to do anything. But if the gear is on, you can just turn it on and off at will, and it works really well. Something else I noticed when I was looking over this engine, right here is the fuel shutoff cable, and it goes up to the top of the intake manifold. So essentially what that does, from what I can tell, is just a valve that shuts off the air supply to the intake manifold. There's no linkage going to the fuel shutoff. Right here there's some linkage coming down, and that's for the throttle. But here's the fuel shutoff lever, and there's nothing connected to that. So I did have it idling one time, and without pulling the intake shutoff valve, I just manually pulled this down with my finger, and it does shut it off that way as well. But I guess I've never seen that before, so I don't know how common that is, but just thought that was kind of interesting. Here's a look at the PTO lever linkage here. I just had to lube this up, and now this lever, it's in the off position now. As you flip it over, it moves like over center and then locks in place. So I was crawling underneath the tractor the other day, and I noticed some bare strands of wire. If you look, you can get in here. Obviously there's an issue with some of this wire. Now this was kind of wrapped up with black tape or duct tape. That's gonna need addressing for sure. So I'm gonna have to take care of that before moving on to any other use with the tractor. That looks like a fire hazard waiting to happen there. Well, I think this is a good place to end the video. The tractor, as you can see, is no beauty queen, but the sheet metal is not all beat up. Obviously, the paint is not good, but I believe the tractor still has a solid foundation to it. The engine seems real strong. Hydraulics work well. The transmission works well. Brakes work well. We just need to go through and finish the rest of the maintenance, address the wiring issues, and then we're going to put it back into service, and I believe we'll have ourselves a very good tractor again. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe. Your subscription doesn't cost anything. It helps the channel out greatly so I can keep these videos coming. Please leave a thumbs up, and we hope to see you in the next video.